Welcome back to the Redhead Report. I'm your host, Elie Gelman, and it is finally week 9 of the fantasy football season. If you survived week 8, congratulations, but it's time to look ahead to this next week. And to get you started, we have my top waiver wire options for this week in the fantasy football. If you have injuries, you have teams on bye, whatever it is, this is one of the best waiver wire weeks in all of the fantasy football season, especially because we're coming down to the wire. People got to win games to get into playoffs. So I'm here to help you out this week with your fantasy football waivers. And let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Starting off with number 1, which is probably the most obvious waiver wire pickup of the entire year. Tyrone Tracy, running back for the New York Giants, who is only rostered in 42% of ESPN leagues. Last Sunday, we saw Cam Scadaboo, devastating injury, a really gruesome injury, dislocated his ankle, and unfortunately, he's going to be out the rest of the year. So now, all those carries, all that production, all those touches is going straight to Tyrone Tracy. And you may be thinking, I'm not so sure about this, Elie. I'm a little worried about Devin Singletary. There's nothing to be worried about. He's going to get a little bit of touches. He's going to get a little bit of action, but the majority will go to Tyrone Tracy. After the Cam Scadaboo injury, Tracy played 33 snaps compared to only 8 for Devin Singletary. Tracy had 3 targets and 10 carries, so 13 opportunities compared to only 3 opportunities for Devin Singletary. While this is a young back, it's only his second year. He has produced for fantasy in the past. Last year, his rookie season, he averaged 13 PPR points a game and averaged 16 carries a game in non-blowouts. And the problem with last year with the New York Giants is that their quarterback play and their whole team play, really, they were getting blown out almost every single week. But as we've seen so far this season, that with Jackson Dart, with this improved offense, they are going to be able to stay into games. And I'm not saying that the Giants are going to have the most unstoppable offense and Tyrone Tracy is going to be an RB1 for the rest of the season, but they're going to be competitive with Jackson Dart and they're going to have better game scripts, which means more opportunities and better opportunities for Tyrone Tracy. So I would put, if you're in a fab league, I'd put all your fab. If you're in a claim league, in order. In my league, I have the first waiver wire pick this week. I'm using on Tyrone Tracy. I think that he is RB2 potential for the rest of the season. He has a safe floor and he's going to get all these touches on a solid team. And you have to pick up running backs. You have to play running backs that get touches. So Tyrone Tracy is obviously, for me, the number 1 pick this week when it comes to waiver wires. And now moving to the wide receiver position, we have Troy Franklin, who's a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He's rostered in only 44% of ESPN leagues. Last week in my tier list video, my rankings, I projected that Troy Franklin was going to have a big game against Dallas, the worst defense in the NFL, and he came through. He had 2 touchdowns. He finished as a top 5 wide receiver on the week. And the past 2 weeks, he has had 18 targets, which ranks 18th in the entire NFL. That's ahead of guys like CeeDee Lamb, Rome Odunze, George Pickens, DK Metcalf. So the last 2 weeks, he has been putting up production like a wide receiver 1. I'm not saying that he's a wide receiver 1, but consistent week after consistent week, you're going to have to put him into your lineup. And even on his own team, in the past 3 weeks, he has out-targeted Courtland Sutton, and on the season, they're very, very close. 56 targets for Courtland Sutton, and just 2 behind him is Troy Franklin at 54. So he is right there with being one of Bo Nix's favorite targets, similar to Courtland Sutton. And the rest of this wide receiver group is not anything to be worried about. Mims is injured. He has a concussion. Pat Bryant only has 14 targets on the whole year. So Franklin is strongly in that wide receiver 2 spot for the Denver Broncos, and that is a good offense. We've seen what they've done the past 2 weeks, putting up 30-plus points. They've put up 40 points against the Dallas Cowboys, so that is a good offense. And if you look at the next matchups, Houston is rough. You're not going to, you could play him there, but that is just an unfortunate matchup coming right after Dallas. But then you have Las Vegas, easy matchup. Kansas City, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. then a bye, then Washington. We saw what Kansas City did to them. And then Las Vegas again, playing Las Vegas twice in the next 5 weeks. And Las Vegas gives up the 8th most points to wide receivers. So Troy Franklin has been playing well. His schedule looks good for the rest of the season. And I think he is a wide receiver 4 in that range, flex range. And he could be started as of right now every single week. I wish I picked him up earlier, but if he's still on your waiver wire, I would absolutely run and pick him up. And this next guy, going back to the running back position, we have Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight, running back for the Arizona Cardinals. He's only rostered in 19% of ESPN leagues. And this is a little different than the first two because I don't think that this is actually a long-term pickup. But if you're in a pinch, buys, injuries, whatever the case may be, this is a guy that you could plug and play right now this week against Dallas because he's the RB1 on the Cardinals. Because Michael Carter was released. Trey Benson isn't off IR yet. He's not back from injury. So it's really just Bam Knight leading this backfield. And in week 7 before the bye against Green Bay, he had 14 carries for 57 yards and 4 targets. So that's 17 opportunities. He didn't really produce so well, but still 17 opportunities. If he's going to get 17 opportunities against Dallas, he's going to produce for your fantasy team. Like I said, Dallas, they are the worst defense in the NFL. They give the 4th most points up to fantasy running backs. We just saw what they did last week against Denver. They gave up a 100-plus yard rushing game to J.K. Dobbins, and they gave up 3 touchdowns to rookie running back R.J. Harvey. So on Monday Night Football against Dallas, the terrible, terrible defense, Bam Knight is a low-end RB2 flex. You can easily pick him up this week and play him with confidence. So that is a running back play for you this week. And then moving to a position that people have a lot of issues with, that's tight end. This is another short-term rental similar to Bam Knight because Cole Kmet is injured right now and he may miss another week. I'm not sure how serious his back injury is, but even if Kmet plays, Colston Loveland has been becoming a bigger part of this Bears offense every single week. If you look at his snap percentage here, 42%, then 67, then 81. So it is going up, and not just the snap share percentage. In week 6 and 7, before Kmet's injury, Colston out-targeted him 7-3, and last week he had 5 targets for 38 yards, which was a season high. Between week 6 and 8, Lolston has had 3 end zone targets. So it's not just that he's getting the targets, he's getting valuable targets in the end zone, getting opportunities to score touchdowns. And like I said, he's becoming more involved in the offense as the season goes on. That's often what you see with rookies, especially post-bye. His bye was really early in the season in week 5, so it might be taking him a little bit more time to get acclimated to the offense. And the matchup this week is super, super juicy. Playing against Cincinnati, that is the team that gives up the most points to fantasy tight ends. They have allowed a tight end touchdown in 4 straight games and 5 out of the 8 games this season. So if there is a week that Colston Loveland is going to break out, it's going to be this week. With Cole Kmet banged up, with the best matchup you can ask for a tight end, becoming more involved in the offense, and you don't want to miss this week because tight end position, unless you have one of the top 5 guys, you're always scrambling to get production from that spot. So pick him up if you're struggling at tight end, and I would play him this week with confidence, with Cole Kmet or without Cole Kmet. Now, moving back to the wide receiver position, we have a guy, Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver for the New England Patriots. He's only rostered in 30% of leagues, and this guy just continues to break fantasy rules, really. He continues his miraculous stretch in the last 3 games. If you look at the stats here, he has 4 touchdowns and only 12 targets on this Patriots team that doesn't have the most talented offensive players, doesn't have the most talented receiving core. He only has 11.8% target share. So not a high target share at all, but he's scoring the touchdowns. And this is a risky start. I spoke about it last week in my rankings. He's touchdown dependent, but they don't seem to be slowing down because he plays on a team with Drake May, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And this coming week, he plays Atlanta. That is not a great matchup. They give up the 6th least points to wide receivers. So not 100% excited about that, but I still think I have confidence in him because I have confidence in Drake May. But if you could just look past this week, looking at the next 4 weeks, really, Tampa Bay, New Jersey, New York, Cincinnati, and the Giants, all teams that you could throw on, all teams that are not great at guarding fantasy wide receivers. So I think that this week might be a little bit rough. So I don't know if, depending on what your roster looks like, you might just snag him, keep him on the bench this week. But these next 4 weeks after you play Atlanta, he is absolutely startable at the flex spot and really for the rest of the season if Drake May is going to continue to play like this. And then keeping it in the receiver zone, we have Alec Pierce, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, who's only rostered in 10% of ESPN leagues. And we all know the storylines. The Colts offense this season has been unbelievable in real life, but also for fantasy. Pittman has been putting up numbers. Jonathan Taylor is an MVP candidate. Tyler Warren is a top 5 tight end. But they've also, in recent weeks, had some of these side pieces play really, really well. Josh Downs caught a touchdown last week, and Pierce has been quietly playing well, and that's why I think he's a viable option this week off the waiver wire. The last 3 weeks, he has 19 combined targets, averaging 70 yards a game, and during that span, he is second on the team in targets. And the yards have been there, the targets have been there, but he's missed out on TDs. The touchdowns have not been there. But this is a week against Pittsburgh. If you scroll down here, against Pittsburgh, that gives up the 6th most points to wide receivers, especially because of that single safety look that they play. I'm expecting a big game from Alec Pierce. I think this is when he finally gets in the end zone, and he is a flex-worthy start this week. And then the last 3 guys we have are kind of all in the same category. These, I'd call them running backs to stash. Dylan Sampson, Tank Bigsby, and Bashel Tudin. We'll quickly just to get into each one of them. Dylan Sampson, running back for the Cleveland Browns. He's only rostered in 10% of leagues. The Browns are on a bye, but Quinshon Judkins, starting running back for the Browns, has suffered an AC joint sprain, and they are expecting him to be good after the bye. They're calling him day to day, so he could be good after the bye. But if he was to miss time, it would be Sampson's backfield. In the 2 games in the beginning of the season that Judkins did not play, Dylan Sampson had 13 points and 10 points, and he would lead the backfield over Jerome Ford. And you look here, he had 8 receptions, 8 targets, 3 receptions, 3 targets. So he is a really talented receiver out of the backfield. So that's something to keep an eye on if you're a Quinshon Judkins owner. But even if you're not, and you're looking to potentially spoil a Quinshon Judkins owner handcuff. And now moving into Tank Bigsby, similar situation to Dylan Sampson. Another team that's on the bye, another team that star running back Saquon Barkley is injured. He is injured with a groin injury. But again, the team expects that he's going to be ready for next week, week 10 against Green Bay. But if he does miss time, if Saquon does miss time, Tank Bigsby is the guy to have in this Eagles backfield. So another stash if you have the space. And lastly, a rookie running back from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Bashel Tudin. This is another team that is, coming off the bye, and like we mentioned with Colston Loveland, the rookies often get a post-bye week bump, and Travis Etienne has not been playing great. We've seen that this coaching staff this year and last year is not fully against giving significant amount of carries to other running backs, and Tudin has looked really talented this year. He's scored multiple touchdowns, one on the ground, one through the air. So I'm not expecting, I have no expectation that they are going to bench Travis Etienne because he is their starting running back. They spent a 1st-round pick on him a couple years ago. But if something were to happen, if they decided to go a different direction, Bashel Tudin would be the guy in that backfield. And potentially they want to do a little bit of Seahawks or Panthers action, and we get a 60-40 split, and Tudin becomes fantasy viable in deep leagues. So that's another deep stash for you for this week. So those are the guys that I have this week. It's a big week for fantasy football. It's a big waiver wire week. Tracy and Troy Franklin are my top guys. Really, rest of season, I think they're startable. But if you're just looking for a 1-week rental, there are plenty of guys to look at all positions. So that is what I have for you this week. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram so you don't miss anything that I am putting out there. And get those claims in, get that fab out there, and good luck this week.